Mike Tyson is remembered as one of boxing's most formidable champions, a young man whose fists delivered fear and awe with every swing. To the public, he was unstoppable, a powerhouse who could end fights in seconds, a phenomenon who shattered records and became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Yet the story behind the glory is far more complex. Tyson's life was shaped long before he ever entered a ring, rooted in a childhood filled with fear, abandonment, and survival. His ferocity was not only athletic skill but a response to trauma, a defense mechanism against a world that had shown him little mercy. Every knockout, every belt, and every public triumph was built upon a foundation of pain he never learned to escape. Behind the legend of Iron Mike lies a boy whose life was defined as much by suffering as by triumph. A broken boy in Brownsville. Before fame and fortune, Tyson was a small, frightened boy navigating the streets of Brownsville, New York. Hunger, fear, and neglect were constants. Love and protection were rare. Surrounded by danger, he quickly learned that survival required toughness. The power people admired in the ring was born from necessity. Tyson fought not for glory, but for life itself. Robbed, beaten, and mocked, he developed aggression as armor, learning to use violence as both shield and weapon. Family, as most understand it, was almost a foreign concept. Guidance and protection were absent, leaving him to fend for himself. His environment forced him to grow up fast, replacing childhood innocence with instincts for survival. What looked like raw talent on television was actually the manifestation of years of fear and trauma. Tyson's strength, both mental and physical, emerged as a lifeline in a world that offered him no safety. The mentor who saw potential, Cus D'Amato, entered Tyson's life as more than a boxing trainer. He became the father figure Tyson had never known. Cus recognized potential where others saw trouble and provided guidance, discipline, and emotional support. For the first time, Tyson experienced stability and belief in himself. Under Cus's mentorship, the angry, frightened boy transformed into a disciplined prodigy. The outcast became a champion in training, his raw aggression refined into skill. Yet even as Tyson flourished, the shadow of loss loomed. Cus's eventual death would strip him of his primary anchor, leaving him vulnerable at the exact moment he needed guidance most. This early tragedy left an indelible mark. Tyson's successes would always be shadowed by grief, and his emotional foundation remained fragile. The world would see him as confident and invincible, but inside, he struggled to reconcile triumph with the loneliness of losing the one person who truly believed in him. The youngest heavyweight champion. At 20 years old, Tyson defeated Trevor Berbick and became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. The public saw perfection, a fierce, dominating athlete who seemed unstoppable. Fans were captivated, promoters celebrated, and the media framed him as a cultural icon. But behind the spectacle, Tyson was still a grieving boy, mourning the loss of his mentor. The stability Cus had provided vanished overnight, leaving Tyson exposed to those seeking to manipulate him. People surrounded him, flattering and advising, while their real aim was financial gain. Tyson, unprepared for the complexities of fame, struggled to distinguish friends from opportunists. His ascent in the boxing world coincided with a profound vulnerability, and his personal life began to fracture as a result. The power he wielded in the ring contrasted sharply with the confusion, grief, and exploitation he endured outside of it. The collapse that followed. Following the Walters interview, Tyson's life began a downward spiral. Public humiliation merged with personal chaos, fueling poor decisions and dangerous behavior. Trust in the wrong people compounded the sense of isolation and instability. The world's judgment was relentless, and Tyson's inner turmoil became increasingly visible. His personal life unraveled alongside his public image, and the consequences were swift. The boy from Brownsville, still seeking safety and stability, was now trapped in the glare of global scrutiny. Fame no longer protected him. It amplified every weakness. This period of collapse set the stage for the darkest chapters of Tyson's life, where legal troubles and emotional crises would intersect, leaving an indelible mark on both his legacy and his psyche. The conviction that shattered everything. In 1992, Tyson faced a conviction that would alter the trajectory of his life forever. Found guilty of rape and sentenced to 6 years in prison, his fall was public, brutal, and shocking. Fans and sponsors recoiled, the media castigated him, and the perception of invincibility dissolved. For Tyson, the events, while devastating, felt almost inevitable. Years of personal instability, manipulation, and unaddressed trauma culminated in this legal and emotional crisis. Prison stripped him of freedom and fame, leaving him alone with the ghosts of his past. Incarceration became a crucible, a period for reflection, confrontation, and survival. Yet even in confinement, the patterns that had defined his life, the anger, the mistrust, and the tendency toward violence, remained. The conviction symbolized the intersection of personal failure and societal judgment, marking the first time the world saw Iron Mike as vulnerable, human, and profoundly fallible. The return that didn't heal. Tyson's release from prison in 1995 brought public curiosity and anticipation. Fans hoped for redemption, a triumphant comeback that would restore his former glory. Yet freedom did not bring peace. The man who returned was angrier, more volatile, and more unpredictable than the champion the world remembered. Past trauma, compounded by the experience of incarceration and isolation, left deep psychological scars. Tyson fought again, seeking to reclaim control, yet the emotional wounds were still raw and largely untreated. The public expected heroism and dominance. What they witnessed was a man grappling with grief, fear, and rage. His return highlighted that athletic success alone cannot heal deep-seated pain. The coming moments would underscore this in dramatic, unforgettable ways, showing that unaddressed trauma can explode in ways that even the most skilled and powerful cannot contain. The bite that defined him during his 1997 rematch against Evander Holyfield, Tyson's suppressed rage erupted in the most shocking manner of his career. Humiliation, frustration, and unresolved trauma coalesced into an act of violence that shocked the world. He bit Holyfield's ear. The arena erupted, commentators were stunned, and fans were outraged. Tyson's actions were widely condemned, resulting in fines, suspension, and a tarnished reputation. Yet beneath the scandal was a man expressing his pain in the only way he had ever truly known, through aggression. The bite symbolized the culmination of years of trauma, loss, and inadequate guidance. It was a moment where the champion lost control, exposing the fragility hidden behind public invincibility. For Tyson, it was not merely a boxing scandal. It was an emotional breakdown broadcast for the world to witness, a physical manifestation of lifelong inner turmoil. Conclusion: the boy behind the champion. Mike Tyson's story is not just one of triumph and scandal. It is a portrait of a life shaped by trauma, neglect, and the struggle for survival. Behind the gloves and championship belts was a boy whose early life forced him into violence and mistrust. Cus D'Amato's guidance offered hope, yet his loss left a void that fame, money, and public adoration could never fill. Tyson's journey through marriage, legal troubles, and public scandals reveals the complexity of human resilience and fragility. He was a champion in the ring, but a vulnerable man outside it, wrestling with the consequences of a childhood that demanded strength before he was ready. Ultimately, Tyson's life reminds us that greatness can coexist with pain, and that the world's perception of power rarely reflects the emotional battles that lie beneath. The man the world feared and admired was, at his core, a boy still seeking to heal.